was at. The question, of course, was asked and dodged, and to the best of his ability as usual. But man, was he in filibuster mode today? I had never heard him speak on so much nonsense for so much.
Yeah.
Going out top of his game then, huh?
Yeah, he did. You know what? He got to 10 negative, and that was because Wiedemann had said he wasn't opposed to it, so that was easy. The rest, I thought it was kind of on the light side. You know, I thought 30 billion would be high, but 20 billion I thought was low. But you see the emphasis now. Now it's all Lagarde. This is what she was brought in for. I mean, could you hear the fiscal side enough? I mean, there's so much pressure building, and then at the end he talked about that the Dutch have a 50 billion, which is, well, for the Dutch that's not a small amount, but this is certainly.
So basically, you're saying basically they show a total willingness to buy the paper to finance the fiscal stimulus.
Yeah. There, you know, I basically think he said, and rightfully so, that you know there's nothing else that monetary policy can do, which is basically what he admitted. But he had to deliver something. But this is now about where Lagarde is going to push, and this is what really she was given the job for, because she's going to now try for the next is an 8-year term. But for the next year or two, it's going to be pushing on the fiscal stimulus, and then with the fiscal stimulus, they're going to have to do some type of fiscal harmonization, which will mean that they'll roll up all that debt into a euro bond. This is the task ahead for them. If this project is going to succeed, this is where it has to go. There can be no other way. He's brought them so far that I just don't see. That has to be the exit strategy, because the only other exit strategy is an absolute end to this, and that'll bring with it all types of financial repercussions, and will be an event that really unnerves the whole global financial system. Now, I'm not talking about that this is tomorrow, and I'm not talking. But this is what is now on the horizon for the next 2 years, and you can go, well, asshole, what's the difference? 2 years, we'll all be dead anyway. Yes, but within that, there'll be all kinds of nuances as to how it will affect certain things, like we talked about yesterday. The European bank stocks, European stocks in general. The DAX was trying to push higher. I know it failed. I don't know where it is now. I turned off my machine. I'm actually in the car, so I'm back on the road. But I listened to the entire press conference. Okay, that's where we're at. And the New York Times guy, you know, I said, well, really, you're going to really ask the obvious question? The second part of his question was actually pretty good, but the first part, which was about the monetary, the money drops, and Draghi absolutely gave the same answer that Thomas Jordan gave the other day, which was, that's fiscal policy. And he was smart to remove himself from that, because that's not a discussion. I always thought Bernanke erred badly in his even approaching it, and you saw how Draghi was careful. He said, last time you asked me this question, I got in trouble, so let me be, very direct here, so as to remove that. So I thought that was very telling.
Ira, as you were talking, something dawned on me, and about the Eurobond, and it's this. Let's just say they coerce the Germans to do it.
Yeah.
They would have to figure out some kind of way to keep Mediterranean Europe from they'd have to put something in place to stop Mediterranean Europe from continuing to spend the way they've been. Right? Because
they've actually been doing that for the last 8 years, which is what has created all this animosity towards the Germans. You know, the Greeks were adamant. The Italians are none too happy because it's all been, you know, the Germans were pushing fiscal austerity down their throats because they could. Germany was riding as high as they could possibly be because they had just come out of the worst part. You know, don't forget, in the early part of the aughts, Germany was in the worst shape of everybody because they were trying to, you know, they were bailing out Eastern Germany, and it was very costly, and there were, you know, a lot of things that were negative. It's when the euro went down to, you know, 82.5 cents. Things were not good, but then Germany, certainly under Gerhard Schroeder, they get their house in order, especially with the labor reforms, you know, and that's what they were pointing at everybody going, look, we made the hard decisions. We made the hard decisions. Yeah, but they did it with a very weak euro. You know, they had everything, and that's what, you know, people in Europe would say, but the Germans would say, you know what, but we made the hard decisions. Nobody here has made the hard decisions. You just want us to finance your way out of it. So this is going to be now the continual theme of everything in Europe, because where is this going to wind up at? Where is this going to wind up? Are the Germans going to actually step up? And don't tell me a 50 billion stimulus. 50 billion stimulus for Germany is nothing. This is where the game is now going to be, and you can see it because Draghi basically said, "This is all we can do." Yeah, how many times did he say in today's press conference? This is, you know, it's now time for them. First, he couldn't even say the word Germany. Finally, by the end, he said it. You know, I was laughing. Say the word, point the finger. It's okay. So, you know, everybody knows. And then, of course, you had Navarro. So this is the discussion. And we're just going to have to look for the opportunities in it. Now, I will say this. There was one great opportunity if you traded European bonds. I actually put them on because the Italian bond was screaming and the Bund was, you know, it was like languishing. I go, really? So they're going to give me an opportunity?
The high in the Italian was one of those levels. It broke 80 points off it the first time, went back up there and retested, and now it's down 160 from that level.
You know, but I was only looking.
You were looking at the spread.
Yeah, I was able to put the Bund French on. I put it on. My only lament is that I was a little. I go, am I missing? I kept looking for something that I was missing because it was so dramatic. I mean, I was able to put it on at a 75 differential from yesterday's closes to buy Bunds at 70. That's like that's an amazing number. But I can't be doing it because I'm going. I must be missing something here. He must have announced that they're coming to some type of consolidation. Of course, he couldn't do that. But you know, as a trader, my first instinct is to go, I must be wrong here. Even as it's working, I must hear something's wrong here. I should not have had this opportunity. But the focus was on the Italian and the French more than anything else once they announced that there was going to be basically unlimited QE. Not unlimited in amounts, but unlimited time-wise. So, but it was at the low end. I mean, really, you know, I thought, as I said yesterday, I thought 30 or 35 billion would be towards the higher end and would be more aggressive. He went the low end, which I thought was interesting, but that must have been because there was more discussion. But he said it was all unanimous, you know, and he was angry about it when they even challenged him. Well, was it really unanimous? Yes, it was unanimous. And it was unanimous that they agreed that it's time for fiscal stimulus. You know, well, gee, no kidding. Unanimous? Yeah, we didn't even have to vote on that. It was an agreement. Okay.
It was comical.
But
you know,
well, and you saw the gold. What the gold? I don't know where the gold is now. It came off
24.5. I mean,
Back up. It's creeping up.
Yeah, but it's the silver. The silver went right up to a major moving average, and
right at 1855.5 on the D side.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, it broke. I was in those calls, and you know, I wanted to, you know, vomit because it was 40 cents.
Yeah, where's the silver at?
The 34.5. I scratched those calls.
Oh, so
You know, Ira, if I'm Germany, if I'm Germany, right, I go to Brussels and I tell the French, I tell the Italians, and the rest of them that have protectionist policies, and I would say, hey, look, you guys are all going to have to give up something because we're not going to backstop a Eurobond until we can remove the threat of tariffs from the United States. So you guys are all going to have to come to the table, figure out what you guys are all willing to give up in order to pull that off, and then and only then do we agree to a backstop.
Well, that's who is it, Angela?
Yeah.
Who is it? Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point, but it's much bigger than that. Because what the Germans are going to demand first, because what Europe wants and what Macron has been pushing, of course, is a unified banking system like the U.S. has, where, you know, because don't forget, let's come back to the McLennan point I raised yesterday, is there is no FDIC insurance in Europe because they don't have a unified banking system as far as absorbing losses. So,
well, you know, Ira, I kind of thought about that, but I thought to myself, first and foremost, I think Germany wants to remove the threat of tariffs, and a unified banking system, I think, is a bigger challenge. You know, for now, in the short term, do you think?
Well, except that if we take Navarro as the canary, and I believe he is a canary because he likes to enhance his importance, and the discussion in the White House seems to be they're going to push for Germany to of course enhance fiscal stimulus. So if the White House says, okay, if you come up with then we'll back off for tariffs, that'll be the first step. Because of course we already had Trump tweeting out, and it was interesting. The European journalists that they call Twitter in chief. It's kind of funny, you know. I mean, we all think it, but they just kept hitting at it and hitting at it and hitting at it. Meanwhile, I'm just getting west of Amarillo. You can't believe how many windmills there are out here. This is like, wow, you know, they're not really blowing right now. Winds kind of count. But there are hundreds.
That's probably the sound of money being torched.
I'm telling you, they're starting to spin a little bit now. But, wow, there are so many windmills. This is really cool. I love this stuff. But, so it looks like they're all going to gang up on Germany, that Germany really has to step up here. Oh, and wait a minute. Here's some massive feedlots for all you guys who are
that's the smell of money, Ira. The euro went down a double bottom this morning.
Yeah, you know what? I was online. Pat Lynch had sent me a thing right after the Draghi. Wow, about the initials at 6:45 when they came out. And he says, "Wow, they're killing." And they first, of course, the euro went up because the market initially, the algos read it as, well, this isn't as aggressive as, because they were built into a 20 basis point cut. So you saw the algos at work, right? You saw the euro went up to what, 111? In the DC, I'm looking at the DC, 111.50?
I was just looking at the cash, but yeah.
Yeah. And then it broke hard. But is the euro back to unchanged already?
No, it's 40 higher. It was 109.27. What? It's 40 higher. That's why I got out of the metals. The 109.27 was the low. 109.84 was the outside reversal low where they got all the stops. And once it went 84 bid, it was just Rip City the other way.
Yeah, and how much higher is the Swiss now? The Swiss is already moving higher before.
Yeah, it's a 42, and I'll tell you what, the Swiss bonds, the Swiss bonds are now lower on the day. I mean, they put an ORH pattern, they got everybody long, then they rinsed them all the way back the other way. And the Swiss, and the Swiss went with it. And these guys that are looking at this chart, you know, it's another day where you look at the ORL or ORH stops, they go down, and that's your out. Once it starts going back above, boom, it's going the other way. And then
that was,
yeah.
That was the concept that we left on yesterday, which is to be patient, because the euro may break, but let's see. Because again, if Europe really were to get their shit together, then there would be when I say shit together, that's a relative term, but that would mean, as we talked about, that there'd be a flow of money into Europe. Because listen, European assets are cheap because the lack of any fiscal stimulus and any growth has kept money at bay. But that may be what you're seeing now. Is that, wait a minute, if the emphasis is going to be on totally, and now it's all out there for everybody to see and everybody to discuss, and it's going to be elevated to another level, you may well see some money flowing in. But I don't know. I'm sorry?
The whole board just went huge risk on, and the bonds just dumped.
I'm long. All right, so I got stopped out of my gold, so I'm flat gold, and I just got long, and this is just crazy. I just got stopped out, so nobody in my room trade this shit. Leave it. Seriously, there's no. This is crazy.
You just had a 10 handle, 12 handle rip in the spoos to nowhere.
Yeah, and I'm flat everything. I'm stopped out of every position I had. I just got stopped out of crude. I got stopped out of gold. I got stopped out of my spoos. That's fine. But stop matches, by the way, Ira. No loss.
Where's the gold at?
It went from 15.22 to 15.15 right now. They're selling the shit out
of it.
Really? Oh yeah, just in this time we're talking. Yep, absolutely.
And the U.S. bonds are now lower.
Yeah.
Yep. US
Amazon and Google are ripping. So it's Amazon, Google, Netflix, Apple, the semis. It's all big cap tech and the semis.
Trump advisors reportedly mulling an interim China deal to postpone tariffs.
I got out of my beans up at 883. I bought them the other day, just as this news started leaking in. I don't know. They'll probably go limit bid today.
Yeah, they're
I'm joking.
87's a high. They're right up there right now, up 20 cents.
Yeah. Everybody's caught off guard there. I don't know where they'll go, but I got orders into buying back substantially lower. I am totally out of that. See, now I think that the silver gold, if this is right, the copper kind of was all over the place. First it was up with the fiscal, and then it totally dissipated when I left. It was basically unchanged. I don't know what the copper's doing, but it should be. Yeah, it should be an inverse correlation.
Yeah.
And the silver gold should actually start to work again.
It is. Well.
No, is it? Yeah.
Started too early.
I don't know.
Yeah, the problem with that chart, Ira, is that the gold is right up at the oscillator right there, and that's going to make it a really shitty place for it to follow through. So that needs some time today or into tomorrow to work.
It started to look like it was working, but then it flattened.
Silver tried this morning too with the gold when it hit that stone cold level that it needed.
I mean, that was boom, and that's.
But again, But keep your eye, because if this is right, and I stress if, I don't speak in absolutes, because anybody who, speaks in absolutes in this business will be doing something else absolutely. So there is no absolutes. But if that is right, where should it reflect? Are the European bonds, have they turned lower? That would be an amazing.
No, the Italians still show up 130. The Swiss bonds are now a couple of ticks higher. My stuff's stayed there. Let me look at my other screen. 170.04 in the Bunds.
What is that? What's that?
174.04 in the Bunds. They're down 20 ticks.
They're down 20 ticks on the day?
Yeah.
How about the French?
The French are, they still show up, those are the Bonos. The French are up 13 or what?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's about the differential that they should be at.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking in I can do all the.
The bonus are the ones that are up big.
Yeah. See, now they're getting this whiff. Okay, so yeah, you may as well buy Italian. If you're going to be in euros, Italian bonds are still euro bonds. You know, they're still denominated in euros. And if you're comfortable here that something's going to be done, you know, why wouldn't you? Why not build a basket up? But this is not going to be this is a long haul. When I say long haul, I'm talking 12 to 18 months that this will be hot button issues. Because whatever they're going to work out, and again, this is why Lagarde is there. I'm not a Lagarde fan, but she does have a lot of political heft. And let's see where they go here. And let's see what happens in, you know, the Germans are the linchpin to all this. You know, how much are they willing to give? But if Macron has worked out with Trump in their bilateral discussions at the G7 that the United States needs to get on board and push in Germany, because it would be good for the whole world if Germany would step up there. You know, because don't forget, Germany has the largest current account surplus of any country in the world on a GDP basis. It's not even close. So, you know, and that's what people are pointing at. The Chinese are going, what do you want from us? We've been stimulating. And if you watch, Mnuchin's interview today was kind of interesting, and I'm not a Mnuchin fan either, but it was interesting to watch it. Again,
Just like his,
the ways with current... Huh?
just like his rug. His hair.
Hey, Ira.
Whatever you get.
This may be a silly question, but about Lagarde.
There are no silly questions.
Thank you. Hold on. Let me ask the question before you say that, though.
No, there are no silly questions.
I know. Does Lagarde have the political heft? Does she have the political capital to bridge the gap between the EU, between Brussels and Germany, especially in light of the Brexit or, you know, non-Brexit, whatever happenings are going on there? Does she have the political heft to bridge some gaps that seem to be just growing wider?
That happens to be a great question, and the long answer is we don't know, because we don't know how Brexit. We don't know. We don't know where this is going to end. We just don't know how this. You know, well, ultimately how it ends is just Britain leaves and see what happens. But that actually will give Lagarde some in the public discussion will give her some edge, because that will really a hard Brexit really harms Germany more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because German supply chains and German exports to the UK. There's a lot of things that, you know, on that table. So that actually does help give her some leverage. But I don't think she'd want that. As much leverage as it would give her, because a hard Brexit comes with a lot of things attached to it. So really, the long answer is there's nobody who knows. And I'm sure she's game theorying it, you know, her research, you know, her analysts, and they're trying to figure it out, but really don't know. But it's a very good question, because that's in this mix too. It's in this mix too. And then you have elections. There's some more German regional elections coming up. You know, the last ones were in the East, so people kind of wrote that off. Go, well, that's just the East. But we'll see. You know, we'll see, because we'll see what the mood is. Because if the German electorate mood is that, hey, we're not paying for everybody. We're already on the hook for far more than we ever dreamt of. And okay, you know what? That is the problem. But this is an ongoing concern, and it's going to be, you have to deal with it. And this is what is going to be the mainstay now. I think monetary policy is actually more important now in the U.S. to see if, in fact, like Trump's tweet, of course, about the dollar, and Draghi got asked about it, and of course Draghi, that's a nonsense answer, by the way, because if you heard his answer, says, well, the G20 says that you're not supposed to, and we abide by that. Well then, excuse me, what did New Zealand do? What did Australia do? What is, what have the Swiss been doing? Come on. Don't give me that nonsense about the G20, but it's a nice fallback position, and that's always Draghi's fallback position. So, well, to that I say whatever. That's a nonsensical answer, and they let him get away with it again. Nobody challenged it, but that's where that lies. And this is now the new frontier, and where we're going to be looking at, because the emphasis is going to be on it, and we have to search out the places where we're going to look for an edge to find the answer. What do we think will reveal where this is at? Because that's the key. I don't care about anything else. It's all gibberish. But where do we think this will really show itself?
What a great turn of phrase there. The reference to Nassau and the 60s. That you just used. I can't remember the phrase. The way that you just said it escapes my mind. But I was struck by the turn of phrase that you used. The new frontier is what you called it. That was John F. Kennedy. Right. So referring. So in my mind, that made me immediately think about what the United States and Russia had accomplished by sending people up into space and the moon and whatnot. Yet there is no clear, or at least there's certainly no defined, yet definitely no clear answer to the exit strategy here. Yet we can change the world in the new frontier. So what is the new frontier now? Financially.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we don't. We just don't know. We just don't know. But it is interesting too that coupled with it was Trump's tweet last night, which certainly was very conciliatory, and he used the language conciliatory. We're making conciliations there, because of October 1st being the 70th anniversary of the Chinese revolution of the Communist Party coming to power. So, that was very conciliatory. So it's like they're looking to turn down the heat on China. That's just my sense. Now, of course, it could change in 2 seconds, but that's what it appears to be. So if they're turning down the heat there, the next question becomes, are they going to turn up the heat on Germany? And I particularly say Germany because Germany is the one who fits the profile. And believe me, the Germans are nervous about this. They've really taken some big hits here just on bad decisions on their part, and they're very concerned about their vulnerability here. German auto companies, German banks, they're very concerned, and that's the backbone of the German economy.
That's interesting.
German chemical firms.
There's a couple of things here you got to know that's going on. One, NASDAQ bonds have filled that gap from when they broke down on that Trump tweet the end of July. We've just gone up and filled the gap, and we're now trading above it.
Okay.
So that is beginning to be really bullish. Big cap tech is leading this whole thing with Amazon, Google, Apple, Netflix. All the chips are up.
Okay. All right, now now are we going to hear, because the French, the friction between Trump and Macron was over that 3% tax on, large tech. That France is, wants to put on, and Trump has threatened that if they do that, he'll respond with terror. That was the initial. So we got to be. there are a lot of things in play. We're not seeing them all, but we're just seeing, again, people always know more. There's always people who know more than we do. We can only see it in its effect on how, the market movements. So are these things taking place? Yes. But are they all tied together? Is somebody going to connect all these dots? Probably.
Hey, can I ask you another question about, and I don't know if it's related in reality or just in my own mind, but a while back you had mentioned that it looked like Bush and Putin that Putin had made some conciliatory moves towards the U.S. for Trump, and that it looked like that we were talking about maybe Trump easing sanctions against Russia. Then gets rid of the Bush.
I'm still wrong RSX for that reason. I think it's coming.
I looked at that yesterday, and after Bolton got canned, I looked at that, and Judd and I were talking about it this morning. In light of, and this is, I guess, where I think I'm connecting the dots, and I could be completely off base, but the initial, let's float the idea of easing sanctions with Iran, and then flow, which will flow into then Russia, easing sanctions with Russia.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that regard. I always thought Russia would come first anyway, but and I don't know that Bolton was necessarily as hawkish with the Russians as he was in other areas, because I always thought that he felt that they could find a lot of commonality with the Russians, and that the Russians, and he understood that the Russians were in control, and that was, not because of anything that Trump had done. That was because of the John Kerry, Obama team, when they really just caved in and allowed Russia to run the show in Syria. And so Bolton understood that, and understood that you weren't doing anything in the Mideast without Russia anyway. So he was, if you look at his language, he wasn't as incendiary in poking at the Russians, because I think he understood you needed the Russians. That nothing is going to happen in the Mideast without the Russians.
Right.
Nothing. Even the Iranians have to be careful.
Well, you got DAX Bund on the weekly right at the 200 week. The Bunds just went negative. The gold's falling out of bed.
The Bunds went negative. The gold's falling out of bed. And it's interesting. The gold's falling out of bed. Is the Swiss still rallying?
Not as much. It's up 22 ticks.
Yeah. Did the Canada get a bid here, even with the weak oil? That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, the Canada's, it's not up that much, though. It's up, hold on. Oh. It's up what? It's up 6 ticks. It's not really doing much.
Yeah, not doing much. But it's, you know what?
Again, and that's it.
Every analyst is just so one-dimensional. But again, we're playing with that 200-week moving average in the Canada, which I don't. Where's the cash come in today at 200 day? 131, 131.75. Yeah.
It's 131.81 right. Oh, what did I just do? Hold on. All right, just here. Let me put all my screens back up.
Why would you want to do that?
All right, let me just put up Dollar Canada for you for a second.
Hey, Judd, real quick, while you're doing that, to follow up, Ira, I guess my thought was that Trump.
First of all, that's another very good question, by the way.
131.19, Ira.
What is it?
It's 131.19 is the 200 week in the Dollar Canada, which comes in at 76.22 in the futures.
Yeah. Okay. And again, I always just point to that because I'm, these one-dimensional analysts with everything Canada is oil. Well, they're the same ones who, if you look at the ruble and you look at RSX, they never should have rallied because of the oil. But yet RSX over the last couple of days has actually performed pretty well too in the face of lower oil. So
yeah,
there's a lot of
oil, and the ruble's been rallying.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, so there's a lot of really stuff that gets out there that I find, but I'm not complaining about it, because you know what? Again, I try to find my edge, and if my edge is in, which is what I stress in this room, find your edge and work it. But the edge doesn't come without a lot of work, so it's a two-edged sword there. Okay, let's go back to the question at hand.
All right, so I guess what made me think is that to be forward-looking, Trump's got to get himself reelected, and he's got to cover all of the bases. So, ease sanctions on Iran, especially now that it's become, I don't know if it's become official or if it's, I just read it on Zero Hedge, which is not official, that the U.S. is now the biggest exporter of oil, and so you've got the Sauds trying to push out the Aramco IPO. At the same time, it looks like the U.S. is going to ease sanctions on Iran, which seems to have, an allied relationship with Russia. So that will lead into Russia. I don't think that Trump could. Now, here's my thought: is I don't think that Trump could just go ahead.
Well, let me correct you. We're not the largest exporter of oil. We're the largest producer of oil.
Okay.
I'm confused the two. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Well, that's perfect. All right. So, so I don't think that Trump could just go ahead and politically, I don't think it's a good idea for him to go ahead and ease sanctions on Russia. That'll just, everybody will be saying that he's Putin's boy without seeing, what he did by easing off of Maduro, Putin off of Maduro at the U.S.'s request, also blocking Iran using some of Syria's ports and other concessions that have been made. So maybe as a go round, or as in a way of preparing, so ease sanctions against Iran, bring down the price of oil, bring down the price of fuel, put more money into people's pockets. Further run the inflation deflation conversation into other areas, and then also add more money back into the U.S. economy with a well-run, peaceful administration. I don't know how far off base I am, but that seems to me to be, some dots that I'm trying to connect, and then pulling them back into, my system, my screens, and how am I going to trade that?
Well, I think it's a very good point. It's worth considering and think about, and a little show. Look at, one of the interesting things there is the peso has actually been performing fairly well of late too, and now that it's up today. I was up pretty good today with lower oil prices. So I see these things play out. There are definitely some moving. There are things moving here. I'm not sure what they are, and you know what? Bolton's. As I tongue-in-cheek said, I figured Trump fired him because he figured he wasn't Michael Bolton. So, Trump thought he could sing, but he couldn't sing so well, so he figured out, wait a minute, it's the wrong Bolton. Yeah, give me the other guy. But there are definitely, now was Bolton, sacrificed? Because that's really what your question is, as a way to signal to Iran that, wait, you know what? Let's think about where we're at here. Let's think about where we're at here, and go from there. But now Putin does have some domestic problems, believe it or not. Now it's hard to say an autocrat has domestic problems, but he has some, because the politics. Hong Kong. There's ripples, and people start to feel it, especially in today's social media world, where things really spread quick. And I'm not saying Putin is under duress. He's not. He's already. We've seen what he's able to withstand. But Putin needs something big also, and he's a clever chap. So what can he bring? That's really what your question is. What could he bring here, and what could he negotiate?
Mm-hmm.
See, and it's easier for Trump now for this reason, is that now that the Mueller investigation is off the front page and everybody's pointing to Russia this, Russia that, Trump could actually make a move here, but what can Putin deliver? Putin will have to bring something to Trump that Trump needs. It's not North Korea. That's a sideshow. What can Putin bring? And I think that's why your question is really good with Iran. Because Putin he's the heavy in the Mideast. Believe me, they all, and what makes them the heavy is that they all fear him. Because the Russians, when they come, they don't come with their hands tied, and they don't care what their media says about what they have to do. They'll do what they have to do, and that's their greatest edge. Because that's what they did in Syria.
That's right.
And nobody messed with them. They got away and did everything. Even Erdogan, with his big mouth and his bluster, he knows that one time when the Turks shot down the Russian plane, I don't know, we're going back a few years, but I don't know if you remember that.
Right.
By mistake.
Yeah.
You know, believe me, it was a mistake because they were not looking to engage with the Russians. They're not looking. So we have to put it. You'll have to watch and see what can Putin deliver. I think your question is a great question because there are definitely things moving. And don't forget, you have to think Nixon in China, okay? And I only say that because, you know, Nixon did things, and believe me, I'm 66 years old. I spent more hours and more time on the street demonstrating against Richard Nixon in all kinds of ways. But Nixon was clever because when does he open it? He goes to China, makes the announcement before this, to impact the 72 election. So Trump, and I stress this, if Trump in fact does want to run, he needs something big.
Yeah, all right, so that's exactly. Yes, that's beautiful. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, interrupt.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. He needs something big, and this is his China.
Yeah, it's a very. I've been thinking about these things as I read things that are way too wonky that I would even talk about. But you know, I read a lot of. My background is political economy and political science, and that's where I read. Drives my wife and kids crazy. Read a novel, but I've been thinking about these things. And again, if he wants to run, if he wants to run, you know, we'll see. But he needs something big. And you know what? And this is what Trump is good at. His ability to do something big is even bigger than Nixon because everybody thinks he's just, he acts as a buffoon, and everybody thinks that he's just a fool. So that makes whatever he's going to do with even more impact because the mainstream media won't know what to do with it. So I think your question is a very, very good question.
And then tying it back with the changing of the guard at the ECB and all of the internal workings of the union, I guess in air quotes, you know, is it really a union or will it be a union? And
right.
And how it all works together. You know, will Italy stick around? You know, how long will Germany allow themselves to be the credit card for the ECB and to be battered about, you know, and that all right. So and then I'm going to stop because I think I'm thinking out loud at this point. But Germany, you mentioned earlier that Germany is getting nervous. At the same time, Germany has also been. So as we talked, you know, the mainstay of the EU's besides the UK, You know, they're going to be the biggest. They are the biggest economy. So they're also put themselves in kind of a precarious position between East and West, haven't they? You know, they're trying to play both sides of the ball.
Yeah, but you know who they have great leverage with?
China.
Let me bring you forward. They do. They have some leverage with China, although, you know, they didn't like that Merkel came, and although Merkel soft-coded it, because she didn't go after them on the Uyghurs. And don't make light of that, because, you know, that's an open issue for
Oh boy, I hope we didn't lose him. Boy, I'm sitting on my edge of my seat here. Are you there? Judd, are you there?
I'm here. I just had myself muted. I think we lost Ira in some weird spell area.
Man, I'm taking notes. I'm on the edge of my seat.
In the middle of nowhere in Texas.
This is the stuff that keeps me up reading at night. You know, when I'm done trying to figure out how to, you know, make proper, how to come up with proper.
I think the metals are done. You know, the Euros now got the stops both ways, and you're getting an ORH day in. I mean, they've just wanked everybody both ways. I mean, look, the Bunds are lower. The Bunds are 32 ticks lower.
That's amazing.
After being, you know, that's a 200-point turn. That level in the Italians were good for 200-point swings, and now it's a 140-point swing. So anybody who doesn't have the sheets and looking at them in front of them has no clue about the playbook that we're trading off of.
Truly amazing. I'm sorry, Robert.
I'm sorry, just off the subject, but notice, I know this area, Amarillo, Texas. I've also lost the signal there. And I could travel, look how weak our infrastructure is. I could travel in Japan in a tunnel for 2 minutes and I would not lose my wife. I would be fishing a trout in Polish mountains and I would not lose my mom in Detroit. And we're just losing a freaking signal on the highways.
That's amazing. That's a great point. Robert, that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, and they're not going to do any infrastructure until they go with 5G, and they haven't done that yet. All right, stop recording this so I can. I'll just stop recording this, and then if he comes back, I'll start again.
All right.